to be unraveling mysteries.
You were friends with my dad, right?
Best friends, actually. You know, like...
Of course you do.
I clammed up because...
Did I do something wrong?
No.
No, it's a surprise, but it's even better than a spinorama.
No
One
way.
roller coaster of a day.
I taught Molly a new trick. Molly,
The
sit.
episode opens with a sense of stillness. The Heartland ranch looks just as peaceful as ever, horses grazing in the distance, sunlight spilling through the barn, and Amy going about her usual morning routine. But underneath that calm lies something different. Her movements are slower, her eyes heavier, and her silence says more than words ever could. Something's been on her mind, something she can't quite name yet. But we can feel it. Nathan arrives early, like he's been doing more often lately. There's a warmth in his voice when he greets her, but Amy doesn't meet his eyes right away. Instead, she keeps brushing the horse she's tending to, her hands steady but her thoughts far away. The tension isn't hostile, it's emotional. It's the kind that comes from care, confusion, and the fear of taking a step that can be undone. Their conversation is light at first about the horses, the training schedule, the weather, but every word feels like it's balancing on a knife's edge. Nathan tries to make her laugh, tries to bring back the easy connection they once had. Amy smiles, but it's brief. She's holding something back. The scene lingers, the camera focusing on small gestures, a quick glance, a sigh, a pause before a sentence. These tiny moments say more than dialogue ever could. Later, as Amy watches Nathan help with a new colt, we see her face soften. There's admiration there, and maybe even affection, but also a flicker of pain. The kind of pain that comes from remembering Ty, her late husband, and wondering if she's betraying his memory by letting someone new get close. The episode doesn't need flashbacks or dramatic music. The silence between the two characters does all the work. At dinner, surrounded by family, Nathan blends in easily. He shares a story that makes everyone laugh, everyone except Amy. She's listening, but her expression is distant, as if she's somewhere else entirely. Lou catches her eye, sensing that something's off, but doesn't say anything. It's one of those moments where the family's warmth only makes Amy's loneliness more visible. By the end of the first act, the audience can feel it, a shift is coming. The ranch is the same, the people are the same, but Amy's heart isn't. The comfort she once found in her work, in her home, even in her memories, is changing. Nathan's presence has become both a light and a shadow, something she wants near but is afraid to reach for. As the sun sets over the Heartland fields, Amy stands by the fence, watching the horses run free. Nathan joins her quietly, standing just close enough that their shoulders almost touch. Neither of them speaks. The wind carries the sound of the horses' hooves, and in that moment, the silence between them feels louder than any confession. And just like that, the episode sets its tone, not with drama or shouting, but with emotion and quiet intensity. Something is beginning, or maybe ending. The camera fades in from black. A soft tune plays in the background, slow, nostalgic, almost haunting. We see old photos of Amy and Ty on the wall, the kind that time can't fade. Then, the focus shifts to Amy alone in the barn, her hands resting on an old saddle. Her fingers trace the worn leather, and for a second, it feels like she's touching a memory that refuses to let go. This is where the emotional weight of Heartland season 19 begins to show. Amy isn't just dealing with her present. She's wrestling with her past. Every shadow in that barn feels like it's whispering Ty's name. And while Nathan's presence brings a quiet comfort, it also stirs something she's not ready to face: guilt. The scene transitions to an early morning ride. Amy takes Spartan out into the open fields, the air crisp, the light golden. It's peaceful, but her mind isn't. The narration could almost read her thoughts, the constant tug between holding on and moving forward. Ty once told her that healing doesn't mean forgetting. But sometimes that's easier said than done. Back at the ranch, Nathan helps Jack fix the corral fence. He fits in easily, laughing at Jack's teasing comments, showing respect where it's due. To everyone else, Nathan seems like a good man, someone reliable, kind, and genuine. But in Amy's eyes, he's a storm waiting at the horizon. Not because he's done anything wrong, but because of what he represents: change, Lou notices it too. Over breakfast, she gently asks Amy how things are going with Nathan. Amy avoids the question, pretending to focus on her coffee. Lou smiles knowingly but doesn't push. That's how Heartland works. Conversations don't need to be loud to be meaningful. Silence has its own dialogue here. Later, Amy visits the memorial she made for Ty. The camera lingers on her as she kneels by it, brushing away a leaf that's fallen across his photo. Her voice cracks when she speaks softly. "You'd like him, but I don't know if I should." It's a line that hits hard, a confession whispered into the wind, meant for no one but the ghosts of her heart. The story quietly reminds us that love after loss isn't simple. It doesn't come with clear answers or perfect timing. For Amy, Nathan's kindness feels like both a blessing and a test. Every moment they share brings warmth, but also the fear that she's losing a part of her old self, the one that belonged to Ty. As evening falls, Amy walks back into the house. The camera pans across the dinner table, Ty's empty chair still untouched, the candle beside it flickering softly. Then, Nathan knocks on the door, holding a file from a client they're helping. Amy opens the door, and for the first time in the episode, they lock eyes long enough for the silence to say everything. There's respect, confusion, and a quiet ache that neither of them can name. The narration deepens. Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't fought in the arena of life, but in the heart, between the promise of what was and the hope of what could be. This is the emotional heartbeat of episode 7, not action, not conflict, but the weight of memory. Heartland has always been about healing, but this time, it's Amy's heart that needs mending. And with Nathan standing so close, she has to decide whether to protect her past or risk everything for her future. The episode begins to shift gears. The air feels heavier now, like a storm about to break. There's a sense of waiting for something to happen, even if no one knows what it is yet. Amy is in the training ring with a young horse named Shadow Dancer, a name that feels more fitting than ever. The horse is restless, mirroring the turmoil inside her. Every movement, every tug on the reins, is a reflection of her battle between control and surrender. Nathan watches from the fence, quiet but focused. He doesn't interrupt. He never does. That's what makes him different. He gives Amy space, but sometimes, space can feel like distance. When Shadow Dancer suddenly bucks, Amy steadies the horse, her breath sharp, her patience thinning. Nathan steps in, his voice calm, guiding, steady. "He's not fighting you," he says softly. "He's afraid." The line lands like an echo, not just about the horse, but about Amy herself. The training session ends, but the tension doesn't. Amy walks off, frustrated. She isn't angry at Nathan, not really. She's angry at how much his words make sense. Angry that he sees her so clearly when she's still trying to hide. Later, they meet again in the barn. The lighting is warm but dim, shadows stretching long across the floor. Nathan tries to talk gently about what happened. Amy avoids his gaze, brushing down a horse that doesn't need brushing. Then he says it, the line that shifts the entire episode. "You don't have to prove you're okay, Amy." The silence that follows is deafening. It's the kind of silence that comes when someone speaks a truth you weren't ready to face. Amy's hand stops moving. Her shoulders drop. And for the first time in a long time, she looks like she might cry, not from sadness, but from exhaustion. Jack walks in before the moment can go further. The atmosphere snaps back to normal, but not completely. Nathan leaves quietly, and Jack gives Amy a long, knowing look. "He's not wrong, you know," he mutters before heading out. That's the thing about Heartland, even the simplest lines carry the deepest truths. As the day fades, Amy stands outside, watching the horses again. Nathan's truck disappears down the road, leaving behind a trail of dust that glows in the setting sun. It's a visual metaphor, something beautiful fading into uncertainty. That night, Amy dreams. The dream is fragmented flashes of Ty, laughter, a hand reaching out, and then Nathan's face appearing where Ty's used to be. She wakes with a start, tears in her eyes. It's the moment she realizes the real conflict isn't between her and Nathan, it's within herself. By the time dawn arrives, Amy's face is calm again, but her eyes tell a different story. She knows something has changed. The balance is gone. The walls she built to protect her heart are cracking. one honest moment at a time. As the narrator's voice fades in, the message is clear. Sometimes the heart doesn't ask for permission. It just remembers how to feel. Episode 7 isn't just another chapter, it's the beginning of Amy's reckoning. The point where healing starts to look a lot like heartbreak. Morning light pours through the Heartland barn, soft but uneasy. The day looks beautiful, yet there's a quiet tension in the air that even the horses seem to feel. Amy moves slower than usual, her thoughts tangled, her heart heavy. She feeds Spartan, murmuring softly, but her eyes drift toward the stable door waiting, though she doesn't admit it to herself. And then, like the day she both hopes for and dreads, Nathan walks in. He's holding a file, something work-related, but the energy between them is far from business. His tone is calm, yet there's something behind his eyes, something unspoken. That's been building for weeks. "We need to talk," he says, and those 4 words echo through the still air. Amy freezes. She doesn't want this conversation, not yet, maybe not ever. But Nathan isn't the type to leave things unsaid. He takes a careful step forward. "I know you've been trying to stay strong," he continues, "but I see you. Amy, I see how hard you're fighting yourself." There's no music, just the sound of the horses shifting in their stalls, the faint rustle of hay. Amy looks up, finally meeting his gaze, her voice steady but trembling at the edges. "You don't understand. You can't." Nathan's reply cuts straight to the heart. "Maybe I don't, but I want to." The words hang between them, heavy with meaning. Amy's breath catches. For the first time, the wall she's built begins to crack. She turns away, trying to find strength in movement, brushing down a horse that doesn't need brushing, her old way of hiding from emotion. But Nathan doesn't move. He stands there, giving her the space to feel without running away, and then it happens, the moment that changes everything. Amy stops what she's doing, turns back to him, and says quietly, "I can't keep pretending Ty's still here, but I can't let him go either." It's the rawest truth she's ever spoken. The silence that follows feels sacred, like the world itself pauses to listen. Nathan takes a small step closer, his voice low. "Maybe letting go isn't the same as forgetting." Amy's eyes fill with tears she's been holding back for years. She doesn't answer, she can't. She just stands there, caught between grief and something dangerously close to hope. The camera lingers on their faces, hers, a storm of emotions. His calm but deeply moved, just as the moment feels too real, too fragile. The spell breaks. A horse neighs loudly outside, startling them both. Amy wipes her face quickly, whispering, "I should check on that." Nathan nods, his eyes soft but knowing. He leaves without another word, his footsteps echoing like the last notes of a song that hasn't quite ended. Outside, the wind picks up, carrying dust and sunlight through the open fields. The narrator's voice returns, calm and thoughtful. Love doesn't always announce its arrival. Sometimes, it waits quietly in the spaces left behind by pain until one small truth finally lets it in. By the time the barn door closes, everything has changed, not in a dramatic, world-ending way, but in the quiet, human way that Heartland has always done best. Amy has finally faced a truth she's been running from. Nathan has spoken the words no one else dared to say, and together, in that fragile stillness, they've crossed a line neither can ever uncross. When the credits of episode 7 began to roll, the fandom erupted. Not with noise, but with questions, quiet, emotional, and deeply personal. Within hours, the Heartland community was alive again. Fan forums glowing late into the night, social media pages filled with screenshots and theories, and whispers spreading faster than wildfire. Everyone felt that something important had shifted between Amy and Nathan. But was it love, or the beginning of goodbye? Some fans believe this episode marks the start of Amy's emotional closure, not a new beginning. They point to the symbolism hidden throughout the horses running wild under the fading sun, the saddle she touches like a relic, and the wind that follows every conversation she has with Nathan. In Heartland, nothing is random. Every visual, every pause, carries meaning. The golden light that often followed Amy and Ty now flickers between shadow and warmth when Nathan is near. Could that be the show's way of saying their story isn't meant to last? Others see it differently. They say this episode isn't about endings at all, it's about rediscovery. The way Nathan understands Amy's silence, the way he mirrors Ty's quiet strength, but still feels entirely his own person. The moment he says, maybe letting go isn't the same as forgetting, hit millions of fans hard. It wasn't just a line. It was a message from the writers, a promise that love can evolve without erasing what came before. The most passionate viewers have started noticing parallels, small, deliberate echoes of the past. The horse shadow dancer's behavior mirrors Spartan's early bond with Amy. The lighting in the barn matches scenes from seasons long gone. Even the camera angles Amy framed alone, then slowly joined by Nathan, resemble Ty's first season arc. It's storytelling symmetry, the show quietly reminding us that healing is a circle, not a straight line. And then there's the theory that stirs the most debate, that Nathan isn't here to replace Ty, but to help Amy finally let him go. Some fans say he's written not as a new love interest, but as a bridge between grief and peace, a mirror of what Ty meant to her: compassion, steadiness, and quiet courage, but placed in a different season of her life. The idea that he's a chapter, not the sequel, is both comforting and devastating. On the other side of the screen, the creators of Heartland have remained silent. No interviews, no spoilers. Just an episode titled The Beginning of the End that fans can't stop decoding. Is it the end of Amy's isolation, or the end of her story with Nathan before it even begins? Some viewers have gone deeper still, finding poetry in the smallest details. The way the horses seem calmer when Amy's alone. The way Nathan always stands just a step behind her, like he knows he's not meant to lead her story. The way the wind always blows from behind him, a gentle push forward, never a pull dot in the end. Episode 7 doesn't give answers. It gives possibilities. And that's what has the fandom divided and obsessed. Because for the first time in years, Heartland feels unpredictable again. It's no longer just about the comfort of family or the beauty of healing. It's about the risk of change and the courage it takes to face it. The narrator's voice returns, soft but haunting. Maybe the end isn't the moment things fall apart. Maybe it's the moment we realize they've already begun to change. And with that, the theories fade into silence, leaving one question echoing in every fan's heart: is this the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning? Night falls over Heartland, but this time it feels different. The sky isn't just dark, it's heavy with emotion. The wind hums through the trees, carrying echoes of everything Amy's tried to hold together. The camera glides over the ranch, the barn lights glowing softly, Spartan resting in the paddock, and Amy standing alone by the fence, her silhouette framed against the fading stars. It's a picture of peace, but also of change. The kind of stillness that comes not before chaos, but after acceptance. Amy's voice breaks the silence, quiet, steady, and real. I think I finally understand, she whispers, as if talking to Ty, to herself, or maybe to the sky. Some goodbyes don't mean it's over. They just mean it's time. The moment is short, but powerful. It's not a grand speech or a tearful breakdown. It's a realization that love can live in memory and still make space for something new. The camera pulls back slowly, the ranch shrinking in the distance as the morning sun begins to rise. The visual is deliberate, one story setting while another quietly begins. Then, the scene shifts. Nathan's truck pulls up at the edge of the property. He steps out but doesn't call her name. He just watches her from afar, knowing that whatever happens next, it has to be her choice. It's a small act, but it defines who he is: patient, grounded, willing to wait for her heart to catch up to her courage. Jack appears beside Amy, handing her a mug of coffee. "You know," he says, his voice rough but kind, "sometimes life doesn't ask us if we're ready. It just happens." Amy smiles faintly. "I guess I'm learning that," she replies. The two stand together as the sun rises higher, the light washing over them in soft gold, a visual metaphor for hope. The narrator's tone softens, deep and thoughtful. Maybe this isn't the end of Amy's story. Maybe it's just the moment she finally starts living it again. Heartland has never been about perfect endings, it's about the courage to keep going. Even when the heart is heavy. The scene transitions into a slow montage: Amy training a new horse, Nathan helping Lou with a ranch issue. The family gathered for dinner, laughter filling the room again. For a moment, everything feels right. But underneath the peace, there's still uncertainty, the kind that keeps the audience holding on for the next episode. Then comes the final image. Amy looking out toward the horizon, her face calm, her eyes full of quiet strength. The wind lifts her hair, sunlight catches her features, and for the first time in a long time, she looks free, not from love, but from fear. The music swells, gentle piano, mixed with the sound of hooves and wind. The narrator speaks one last time. The beginning of the end isn't always about loss. Sometimes it's about rediscovery, finding the parts of ourselves we left behind and learning to love again, even when it scares us. The screen fades to black. And then, in bold white letters, Heartland Season 19, the beginning of the end for Amy and Nathan. A brief pause, and then your voiceover transitions naturally into the outro. So, what do you think this moment means for Amy and Nathan? Is Heartland preparing us for heartbreak, or a new chapter of healing? Share your thoughts below. I read every theory, and I'd love to know yours. Don't forget to subscribe, because the story isn't over yet. It's only getting deeper. The music fades with the sound of the wind, soft, emotional, lingering, leaving the audience caught between reflection and anticipation, because in the world of Heartland, endings aren't final. They're just the start of something new.